Hi guys, this is Yunasa, and today I'll make a presentation about chivalric literature. I'll proceed my presentation in order of chivalric literature's basic information, its features, and some representative examples about this. And lastly, we'll have a Q&A time. Do you enjoy reading any epics or poems? Chivalric literature is a medieval France's representative literacy. It was majorly written in France, and there are two types of chivalric literature: romance and chansons de geste. They are written in the form of poems, songs, and stories. Let's look at some chansons de geste first. Chansons de geste means heroic deeds in France. Chansons de geste was written in 12th to 13th centuries, which is written before romances. It narrates legendary knights, and its moderate length is about 4,000 lines on average. They were originally sung or recited by minstrels or jongleurs, and more than 100 chansons de geste have survived in approximately 300 manuscripts from 12th to 15th century. Since it was written in the age of Charles Martel, Magnan, and Louis the Pious, its purpose was to emphasize on their conflicts with the Moors and Saracens, and also indicate dispute between kings and their vassals. Moving on to romances, chivalric romance is a type of prose or verse narrative that was popular in the aristocratic circles of high medieval and early modern Europe. They typically describe the adventures of quest-seeking legendary knights who are portrayed as having heroic qualities. Chivalric romances celebrate an idealized code of civilized behavior that combines loyalty, honor, and courtly love. Unlike the later form of the novel and the chansons de geste, the genre of romance dealt with traditional themes. These were distinguished from earlier epics by many amount of use of marvelous events, the elements of love, and the frequent use of interwoven stories rather than a simple plot about a main character. The earliest forms were written usually in verse, but in the 13th century, people started to write in prose, often retelling the old written versions. The romantic form pursued the wish fulfillment dream, where the heroes and heroines were considered representations of the ideals of the age, while the villains embodied the threat to their ascendancy. Let's look at some histories of chivalric romance. Originally, Romance literature was written in Old French, Anglo-Norman, and Occitan, and later in English and German. And during the 13th century, romances were increasingly written as prose. In later romances, they tended to emphasize themes of courtly love, such as faithfulness and adversity. During the Gothic revival, from 1800th century, the connotations of romance moved from the magical and fantastic Gothic adventure narratives. Let's look at some examples of chivalric literature now. For chivalric romance, There are Knights of the Round Table by Roger Basine Green and La Shangsheng D. Roland by Chorlus and Christ by Geoffrey Chaucer and and Lee Morte, the author by Thomas Mallory. And for Shangsheng's Teacher's Day, there are Song of Roland by Churl, Cantor de Mio Cid, also known as Song of My Cid, and the author is unknown, and Wilhelm by Wolfram von Eschenbach. And now it's time for Q&A. What are the two types of chivalric literature? Yes, Kim Gil.
He's on mute.
Yeah.
저 안 들렸어요?
Uh,
Shang-Chung Digest and Romance.
yes. And number two, who usually read the literature? Jade.
Shang-Chung Digest is read by
Written by.
Read.
Oh.
Yeah.
Minstrel? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Minstrel. And Romance was read by a little bit royal people. I can't.
Aristocratic circles. You're right. And number three, what was the purpose of Shangsheng's Teacher's Day? Jay?
To say about heroic deeds by legendary knights.
Yes. Shangsheng Teacher's Day, well, its purpose was to emphasize on the conflicts with the Moors and Saracens and also indicate the dispute between their kings and their vassals.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to my presentation.